She was just a little girl walking home, but what that officer did changed everything. Watch until the end. And don't forget to like, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe. The sun hung low over Wilmington, California, casting long orange shadows down the cracked sidewalks. It was a quiet Sunday, the kind of afternoon that made the world feel safe, at least on the surface. 9-year-old Aaliyah Tyson walked home alone, her sketch pad tucked securely under one arm, a bitten green apple in the other. She wasn't humming. She wasn't skipping. She just wanted to get home. Her art class had run a little long at the local community center, and her instructor, Miss Rivera, had offered to walk her. But Aaliyah had insisted she was fine. It was only a few blocks. She'd done it a dozen times. What could possibly go wrong in broad daylight? 2 blocks from her house, a black and white police cruiser rolled slowly beside her, engine purring like a predator in idle. Aaliyah didn't flinch. She didn't run. She'd been taught since she was 5, be polite, be respectful, be still. The window lowered. The officer behind the wheel leaned out, his face blank behind a pair of reflective sunglasses. "You lost, sweetheart." Aaliyah blinked and stopped walking. She forced a polite smile. "No, sir, I live right down that street." "You live here?" he asked, skeptical. "What's your address?" She pointed again. "4th house on the left, green mailbox." "You got ID?" Aaliyah frowned. "I'm 9, I don't have ID." The officer, Ray Dunnan, though she didn't know his name yet, clicked his tongue and opened the door. His black boots struck the pavement with heavy intent. He walked around the front of the cruiser and stood directly in front of her, towering like a wall. "Where are your parents?" "At home, I just came from art class." "Miss Rivera runs it." "Don't get smart with me," he snapped, his voice low but sharp enough to cut. Aaliyah instinctively stepped back, clutching her sketch pad tighter. Her fingers trembled slightly, but she didn't dare run. "I'm not," she said quietly. "I'm just answering." He lunged forward and grabbed her wrist. "Hey!" she cried out. The apple dropped. The sketch pad slipped from under her arm and fell open on the sidewalk, a drawing of a flower caught in mid-bloom, fluttering in the wind. "I didn't do anything," Aaliyah whispered, panic rising in her throat. Dunnan twisted her wrist sharply, yanking her toward him. "You got a mouth on you," he is. "That's what's wrong with your kind. Always talking back, even when you're caught." "But I did." The scream that tore from her lungs split the quiet of the neighborhood like a lightning strike. Her small frame crumpled to the concrete as her left arm bent at an unnatural angle. She sobbed. "I didn't do anything," she gasped through the pain, barely able to breathe. Dunning stood over her, breathing heavily, hand on his belt. His face was emotionless, eyes still hidden behind those reflective lenses. "Maybe next time you'll learn some respect," he muttered. Then, without another word, he pulled a pair of cuffs from his belt. But what Dunnan didn't know, what would later become the detail that unraveled everything, was that the moment he touched her, Aaliyah had pressed the emergency shortcut on her phone, a feature her father had drilled into her to use if anything ever felt wrong. The call connected instantly to one person, Lauren, Mike Tyson's longtime personal security lead, former U.S. Marine, and Aaliyah's trusted aunt. The phone, now clutched tight in Aaliyah's uninjured hand, recorded everything: the questions, the taunts, the slur, the snap of bone, and the sobbing. The line stayed open. Lauren didn't answer. She didn't have to. She was already in motion. Her gym bag hit the floor, her hoodie was over her shoulders, her car roared to life in seconds. She knew every second mattered. And she wasn't the only one. The signal reached. At Wilmington General Hospital, the emergency room staff were used to chaos, car crashes, overdoses, bar fights. But this stopped everything. A child, little black girl, no ID, dropped off curbside by a police vehicle that peeled away before anyone could ask a question. "What happened to her?" a nurse demanded. "Police brought her," said she fell. "No report, no paperwork," said the EMT. "Fell? Her arm shattered," another nurse shouted. "Pain meds now, get imaging prepped." Leah was drifting in and out of consciousness, the pain too great for her young body to manage. Her lips trembled, her eyes fluttered, her tiny voice, barely audible, repeated the same phrase over and over. "I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything." One nurse noticed something strange. Aaliyah's right hand was clenched so tight her knuckles were white. She gently tried to pry it open and saw the phone screen glowing. A call had been active for over 23 minutes. She called someone, the nurse whispered, "It's still going." At that very moment, 30 blocks away, Lauren's car jumped the curb in front of the hospital. Lauren stormed through the automatic doors, scanning the faces until she found a nurse at the desk. "Aaliyah Tyson, 9 years old, broken arm. I'm on her emergency contact." The nurse hesitated. Lauren didn't, not asking, "What room?" "Room 12, she said. Lauren didn't thank her. She ran. Aaliyah looked so small in the hospital bed, so still. Her face was pale, her lips dry, her eyes distant. The temporary brace on her arm looked like it was meant for someone twice her size. "Auntie," she whispered. Lauren was at her side in seconds, kneeling, holding her hand. "I'm here, baby girl, I'm here." Aaliyah started crying. He grabbed me, I told him my name, I told him who my daddy is, and he laughed. Lauren froze. "I told him I'm Mike Tyson's daughter," she sobbed, and he laughed at me. Lauren's blood went cold, not because he didn't believe her, but because he did, and didn't care. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't fear or confusion. This was cruelty. This was targeted. Lauren stood up, her jaw tight. She pulled out her phone and opened the audio recording from the emergency call. She tapped play and let the room fill with the nightmare. Aaliyah's voice, the officer's tone, the crack, the scream. A doctor at the door stopped in his tracks. A nurse's hand flew to her mouth. A paramedic turned his face away. "My God," someone whispered. "Do we know who did this?" asked another. "I'm about to," Lauren said. She walked out of the room and into war. Lauren stood in the hospital hallway, her pulse pounding like war drums in her ears. The recording still echoed in her mind, not just the crack of Aaliyah's arm, but the smug, heartless voice of Officer Ray Dunnan as he muttered insults over the body of a crying child. She didn't need a badge to do what came next. She needed names. Pulling her phone from her jacket, Lauren dialed the number from memory. "Sergeant Linda Brooks, Internal Affairs," the voice answered. "It's Lauren Tyson. I need a favor. Now." There was a pause, then, "What happened?" "A cop broke a 9-year-old girl's arm. Didn't log the stop. Didn't report the injury. Dumped her in front of the ER like trash. And Linda, she's Mike's daughter." A silence. "Then, send me what you've got." Lauren quickly forwarded the audio, photos from the ER, and a snapshot of the nurse's log showing the unknown drop-off. Within 10 minutes, a reply came back. "Patrol Unit 73D, unauthorized use, Officer Ray Dunnan. Prior complaints, 3, all dismissed." Lauren's jaw tightened. She zoomed in on his photo. Same sunglasses, same face. He hadn't even tried to hide. Her next move was automatic. She snapped a picture of the file, tucked her phone into her hoodie, and turned toward the elevator. She knew exactly where to find him. Every cop had a pattern. Dunnan's was Benny's Grill. Every Sunday, same time, same booth. Lauren didn't tell anyone. Not Mike, not the press, not the police. She just drove. The parking lot of Benny's Grill was half empty. Inside, people laughed over chicken fried steak and sweet tea, unaware that the air was about to shift. Lauren parked across the street and waited. 15 minutes later, there he was. Ray Dunnan swaggered out of his cruiser in plain clothes, sunglasses still perched on his face like a mask of invincibility. He walked through the front door of the diner, nodding at the waitress with a grin like nothing had happened. Lauren got out of the car. Her boots hit the ground with certainty, no hesitation, no fear. She opened the diner door. The bell above it jingled softly. Eyes turned. Dunnan looked up from his menu. "You lost, ma'am," he asked, not recognizing her yet. Lauren didn't speak. She reached into her jacket pocket, pulled out her phone, and tapped play. The diner went silent as Allie's voice echoed from the speakers. "Please stop. That hurts. I didn't do anything." Cracked. A gasp. A fork clattered to the floor. A waitress froze mid-step. Dunnan's face drained of color. "Where did you get that?" he demanded, standing now. Lauren stared at him. "You know who that little girl is?" she asked. "Doesn't matter," he snapped. She resisted. "She's Mike Tyson's daughter," Lauren said coldly. And just like that, the smirk vanished. "And I'm Lauren Tyson." He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. "You threatening me?" he asked weakly. Lauren leaned forward, calm and deadly. "If I were threatening you," she said, "you'd already be on the floor." She slid a napkin across the table, written in block letters. Room 12, Williamton General, 9 years old, broken arm, audio, witnesses, internal affairs. By now, half the diner was watching in shocked silence. I suggest you think real carefully about your next 24 hours, she said. You people would think you can. Lauren slammed her hands onto the table. The wood shook, a coffee mug tipped. What you did wasn't fear, it was cowardice. You broke a child, and not just any child, you broke our child. Now, I'm going to break your career. They turned without another word. But before she reached the door, she paused and looked back over her shoulder. The next time I see you in uniform, she said, I hope it's during your perp walk. She left him there, shaking, pale, and exposed. Back in her car, Lauren's phone buzzed. It was Linda again. We got him on record, she said. Dispatch confirms he wasn't on shift, took the car without clearance. EMTs confirmed the drop. He's dirty. Lauren stared at the road ahead. Where is he now? Probably still at that diner. He eats there every Sunday, same time. You didn't do anything reckless, right? I didn't touch him, Lauren said. Not yet. By nightfall, the audio from Aaliyah's emergency call had been uploaded anonymously to a whistleblower platform. The platform servers strained under the weight of millions of hits in hours. Comments poured in. I'm shaken. That poor baby. Name that cop. It spread like wildfire. By midnight, hashtags trended worldwide. Justice for Aaliyah. He touched the wrong girl. Tyson's daughter. Celebrities reposted, activists called for immediate suspension. Some users, unaware of the girl's identity, simply reacted to the sound of her voice. Wrong. Wait for you. Crushed. And when her name was finally revealed, Aaliyah Tyson, adoptive daughter of Mike Tyson, the internet ignited. This wasn't just another case. This was personal. At 9:00 a.m. the next morning, Officer Ray Dunnan's social media accounts had vanished. His phone was off. He didn't show up for work, but it was already too late. 2 news vans were parked in front of his house. A drone buzzed above his backyard. Inside the Wilmington Police Department, the atmosphere curdled. No one defended him. Not this time. Not after that call. Some exchanged glances. Others quietly disappeared into corners, suddenly busy, suddenly silent. Back at the hospital, Lauren sat at Aaliyah's bedside. The child's arm was stabilized now, her small hand clutching Lauren's jacket like a lifeline. The cast had already been signed by 3 nurses. You're brave. You matter. Justice is coming. Aaliyah looked up at her aunt. Is he going to hurt someone else? She asked. Lauren paused. No, she said, because you were brave, and now the whole world knows. Aaliyah closed her eyes and drifted into sleep, her breath finally slowing. Lauren stood. She had more work to do. The night air in Wilmington had changed. The streets weren't just restless, they were furious. By the time the sun rose, over 500,000 people had listened to the emergency call. It was being played on news stations nationwide, dissected by commentators, shared in classrooms and on street corners. Radio hosts cried, talk shows paused for a moment of silence. Entire college campuses organized walkouts. And yet the Wilmington Police Department still hadn't released a statement. No press conference, no apology, no mention of Officer Ray Dunnan at all. But the people were done waiting. By 8:00 a.m., protesters gathered outside the precinct. Parents holding their children, students, grandmothers, activists with bullhorns, handmade signs waved in the air. Protect our kids. Aaliyah deserves justice, not on our watch. Inside the precinct, phones rang off the hook. Officers ducked into break rooms. One young officer stood stiffly behind the reception desk, watching the crowd through the glass. He didn't speak. He didn't move. And at the heart of the storm was Lauren Tyson, calm, silent, determined. She stood at the top of the courthouse steps, arms folded, watching the chants swell like waves. She wasn't leading the protest. She didn't have to. The city was already moving. She had lit the match. The fire was theirs now. Her phone buzzed. It was Sergeant Linda Brooks. I just left HQ, Linda said. They've frozen Dunnan's pay. His badge has been flagged. He's officially under full review for excessive force. Lauren's jaw flexed. Not enough, she replied. Lauren, I know what you're thinking. I'm not thinking, Lauren cut in. I'm acting, because they're still pretending this isn't a nightmare. Later that day, as the pressure mounted on every side, the system snapped back. At 6:03 a.m. the next morning, Lauren stepped outside for a run. She barely made it to the sidewalk when a gray unmarked sedan screeched to a stop beside her. Three men in plain clothes jumped out. One flashed a badge. "Lauren Tyson," he barked. "You are under temporary detainment for obstruction and aggravated assault on a peace officer." Before she could speak, they grabbed her arms, yanked them behind her back, and snapped on handcuffs. No rights read. No phone call offered. Neighbors peeked out through windows, phones came out. A woman whispered, "That's her. That's the one who helped that little girl." Someone was filming. The footage hit Twitter within minutes. At 6:44 a.m., Mike Tyson was in the middle of a phone call when Linda called. "You didn't warn her," Mike growled. "I didn't know," she said quickly. "They bypassed internal channels. It's retaliation, I swear, Mike." "I want every name involved," he said. "Every badge number, every signature, every address." Then he hung up. Mike was done talking. By 7:00 a.m., Lauren sat in a cement holding cell, no charges formally filed, no attorney present, just a clipboard in her lap with a typed statement demanding she cease involvement in any ongoing investigations of law enforcement misconduct. She read it once. Then she tore it in half and dropped it on the floor. "You think I'm scared of paper," she muttered. On the other side of the glass, a man in a blazer sneered. "You're making noise this department doesn't want." Lauren raised an eyebrow. "Good." At 8:02 a.m., the door to her cell swung open. In walked Mike Tyson. He wasn't alone. Two attorneys followed behind him, one federal agent from the U.S. Department of Civil Rights, and a cameraman. Mike didn't say a word, he just handed a flash drive to the agent. Surveillance footage of Lauren's unlawful arrest. Dash cam video from the confrontation at Benny's Grill. Medical credentials confirming Lauren's emergency responder status. Legal documentation confirming she had the right to intervene on behalf of Aaliyah. The agent nodded once. "She's leaving with us." Lauren stood slowly. Her wrists were red, her eyes were fire. Outside, a crowd was gathering, reporters, protesters, even a city council member. Mike took the mic. "They tried to silence the woman who protected my daughter," he said. "Now they're going to learn what happens when you come after my family twice." That evening, Lauren and Mike held a town hall at a packed high school gymnasium. 600 people showed up, parents, teachers, nurses, retired officers, and dozens of survivors of similar abuse, many of whom had never spoken before. A mother stepped forward with trembling hands. "My son was thrown face first into a squad car because he looked like someone," she said. "No apology, no report." A teenage boy raised his phone. "This is my brother after a routine stop. He was 14. A retired officer, his badge still visible in his wallet, took the mic. "I tried to report my partner 3 times. Internal Affairs told me to retire quietly." Each voice was like a wound torn open. Lauren stood in the center of it all, listening, absorbing, promising. "We're building a case," she said, "and when it's done, every name, every badge, every file they tried to seal, it's all coming out." That night, their website went live. www.tysonjustice.org. By sunrise, it had received 18,000 verified submissions. The next day, the chief of police in Wilmington resigned. 3 more officers were placed on leave. The district attorney reopened 10 closed cases, all connected to Ray Dunnan. Meanwhile, in a quiet hospital room, Aaliyah sat up in bed, her brace now removable, her smile small but real. She scrolled through headlines on a tablet, reading each one aloud. Tyson's daughter sparks national reform. Anonymous audio shakes law enforcement to core. Justice for Aaliyah. Movement gains ground. She looked up at Lauren, who had come to check in before another meeting. "Do you think other kids will be okay now?" Aaliyah asked. Lauren knelt beside her and tucked a curl behind her ear. "They will," she said softly, "because you were brave enough to speak." Aaliyah hugged her. Outside, the crowd hadn't stopped chanting. But inside this little room, for the first time in days, it was peaceful. The courtroom was packed. Not just with spectators, not just with press, but with expectation. Every seat in Los Angeles County Superior Court had been claimed before the doors opened. A line wrapped around the block. Some held signs, some held hope. All held one thing in common. They had heard that little girl's voice. Today they came to see what would be done about it. On the prosecution side sat Lauren Tyson, poised and unreadable, a slim black notebook in her lap. Beside her, Mike Tyson sat like a storm in a suit, broad shoulders coiled, jaw locked, hands resting with deliberate stillness. And next to him, Aaliyah Tyson, dressed in soft blue, her left arm rested in a brace, her expression quiet but watchful. Across the room, Officer Ray Dunnan looked like a ghost of the man he once was. No sunglasses, no swagger, just pale skin and trembling hands, hunched behind a table, flanked by two attorneys who refused to meet eyes with the gallery. The judge entered, the room stood, and the trial began. Your Honor, the prosecutor began, the state of California intends to prove that Officer Raymond Dunnan knowingly and violently assaulted a minor, failed to report the incident, attempted to flee the state, and conspired to suppress the truth. Gasps rippled across the courtroom. The jury listened closely as the first piece of evidence was played without introduction, the emergency call from Alea's phone. Her tiny voice rang out across the speakers. Please, I didn't do anything. Please stop. That hurts. Crack. The courtroom froze. A juror's hand flew to her mouth. The judge flinched. Dunnan shifted in his seat for the first time. Then came the photos. X-rays of Aaliyah's fractured ulna, bruising patterns along her wrist, doctors' reports detailing the force required to produce the break. The EMTs testified next, the nurse who found her clutching her phone in the ER, the hospital security guard who reviewed the footage of the drop-off. Each testimony was like another nail. And then Lauren took the stand. Her voice was steady, unemotional, precise. She recounted the entire day, from the moment the emergency alert hit her phone to the confrontation at Benny's Grill. I didn't punch him because I lost control, she said, locking eyes with the defense. I did it because he thought no one would ever hold him accountable. Objection overruled. She then detailed the threats, the attempt to silence her, the illegal arrest. I wasn't the first woman to report abuse, Lauren said. I was just the one who refused to shut up. The next wave of witnesses followed. A retired lieutenant admitted complaints against Dunnan were regularly buried to avoid internal embarrassment. A social worker revealed 2 prior reports involving Dunnan and children, both dismissed. A fellow officer testified under subpoena that Dunnan had once said, "You have to show them who's boss while they're still young." When the prosecution finally rested, the gallery was silent. No cross-examination could erase what had been shown. And then it was Aaliyah's turn. The courtroom seemed to inhale as she approached the stand, her shoes soft against the hardwood floor. She climbed into the seat with the help of the bailiff. A microphone was adjusted. The judge looked down gently. Do you understand why you're here today, Miss Tyson? Aaliyah nodded. Her voice was small, but it carried. He asked me for ID, she said. But I'm 9. I told him my name. I told him my daddy's name. And she looked at Ray Dunnan for the first time since the hospital. He laughed, she said. Then he grabbed me, and he twisted my arm, and I heard it break. No one moved. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a sheet of paper. A drawing. A little girl standing with a cast on her arm. Behind her, a crowd. Below it, I'm stronger now. She held it up with both hands. There was no instruction, no prompt, but the entire gallery stood, a silent wave of respect, honor, and fury. Aaliyah looked to Lauren, who nodded with tears in her eyes. Even Mike's hardened face cracked as he lowered his head and wiped his cheek. Ray Dunnan didn't look up again. After 8 days of testimony, the jury deliberated for just over 6 hours. At 4:11 p.m., the 4 persons stood. The jury found the defendant, Raymond Dunnan, guilty. On the count of aggravated assault on a minor, guilty. On the count of abuse of authority, guilty. On the count of attempted evasion of justice, guilty. Who did not speak, he did not cry, he did not apologize. As the bailiff cuffed him against the courtroom railing, a dozen phones recorded. A dozen more hands clapped, and outside, the crowd of hundreds erupted into cheers. Lauren, Mike, and Aaliyah exited down the front steps, flanked by their legal team. Reporters screamed questions, cameras flashed. But they didn't stop. Not until one voice called out, Mr. Tyson, what happens now? Mike paused, turned. We built something that doesn't need a Tyson to be heard. 3 weeks later, the Tysons weren't celebrating. They were organizing, because for every Ray Dunnan, there were dozens more protected by silence, policy, and fear. Fighters for Institutional Safety and Truth was formally launched nationwide. 20 offices in 12 states, over 31,000 verified reports submitted within the first month. Retired detectives, civil rights attorneys, digital forensic analysts, trauma counselors, all mobilized under one mission: expose the system, protect the silence, give power back to the people. But the pushback was immediate. At 6:00 a.m. on a Thursday morning, Lauren received an encrypted message with 5 flag cities already targeting Fist with legal action. One had filed a cease and desist. 2 had begun investigating their access to internal files. "They're scared," Mike said, reading over her shoulder. "Good," Lauren replied. "They should be." That night, the attack turned personal. Other website was hit by a massive cyber assault. IPs traced to foreign proxies, thousands of documents scrambled, whistleblower names leaked, even Lauren's phone was cloned, fake texts were posted online, trying to paint her as unhinged and aggressive. One headline read, "Tyson's niece leading dangerous vigilante network." Lauren held a press conference the next morning. Standing before the Fist banner with Aaliyah beside her, she said, "They can crash our servers, they can smear my name, but they can't erase what they fear most: a little girl who refused to stay silent." Mike stepped up. "You want to scare us?" he said. "I've seen fear. I've been fear, and nothing I ever hit in the ring or on a screen compares to the cowardice hiding behind these badges." He leaned toward the mic. "Come at us, just understand. We hit back." That same evening, 2 Fist officers received suspicious packages. One was a bomb threat, the other laced with digital trackers and malware. It was no longer defense. It was open war. 2 days later, Lauren received an anonymous video. Drone footage. A blurry man stood by the fence of a school playground, alias school. No audio, 10 seconds long. Lauren froze. "They're not coming after us anymore," she whispered. "They're coming after her." Lee was moved within 24 hours. A safe house outside LA, former Navy SEALs secured the perimeter, biometric locks, night patrols, no access without full verification. Mike Tyson became more than her father. He became her shield. Her fortress. That night, Lauren sat on the edge of Aaliyah's bed. The girl looked up. "Are they gonna hurt us?" she asked. Lauren brushed a curl from her forehead. "Not if we make the world watch." The next morning, Lauren and Mike held an emergency press conference on the steps of the federal courthouse. The footage played on every network. Lauren held up a flash drive. 49 leaked internal memos, 12 sealed files, 31,000 testimonies, all buried until now. A screen behind them flickered to life. The drone footage played, then enhanced. The blurry figure became clear. A retired sergeant, previously reassigned after multiple misconduct complaints. The crowd exploded. The Department of Justice launched a federal investigation the same afternoon. And then Aaliyah stepped forward. She took the microphone in both hands. "My name is Aaliyah Tyson. I'm 10 years old. A man broke my arm and made me feel like I didn't belong." She paused. "But I do. And so does every kid who's never heard." She held up another drawing, this one of a girl holding a megaphone. Below it, her voice matters. And in that moment, the world didn't see a child. They saw a movement. Born in silence. Raised in truth. Carried on the voice of a girl who refused to be quiet. Her voice started a movement. And now the world is listening. If this story moved you, like, comment where you're watching from, and hit subscribe. Let's reach 1,000 together.